Hello, today we're going to be talking about what is a good conversion rate for leads. Have you ever wondered what is a good conversion rate for the leads that you're giving to your sales team? Today, I'm going to walk you through the proper way to measure conversion rates for leads, but also know if it's good or if it's bad. Now, the lifeblood of any organization is leads. The quality of leads can absolutely burst morale or bring your sales team down. Understanding that will save you some unnecessary heartache. So today, I want to first help you understand what a lead is and what type of leads exist. Secondly, we're going to talk about conversion rate and how different groups might look at that with a little bit deeper meaning. And finally, we're going to talk about conversion rates, what they look like, and how you can measure them with your team to see the success that you want. If you're ready, let's go. So what is considered a lead? Many people say, well, it's a good lead, it's a bad lead. So what is a lead? Here's my basic definition of a lead. It is someone who has invested either time or money. So think about it. If you have someone that is a potential customer for your business, they might raise their hand and say, hey, I'm interested, but they still invested time. In our organization, if somebody has bought a package or a program that's associated with what they want to learn, let's say real estate, somebody comes in, they want to understand real estate investing, and they've bought a program associated with real estate investing with a certain individual or a certain thought leader, that's obviously a lead. They've spent money. They've taken their credit card or their debit card out of their wallet and they've put it on to buy a program from us. So that is a good quality lead. Can there be a good lead when somebody doesn't spend money? Absolutely. Because what is our most important commodity that we have? It's our time. So there's been leads that have come into our organization that have been what we call consultation leads. These are people who filled out a questionnaire or a survey to be part of your team or your organization. And the fact that they've invested time to answer 5, 6, 8 questions, they've invested time. That can be potentially a good lead. Matter of fact, I'll show you here in a little bit how sometimes somebody who doesn't spend money can actually be a higher quality lead than somebody that did. Now, that's not always the case, but it's kind of a fun scenario to go through, so I'm happy to share it with you. And here's that story. When we first got started in this organization, this is probably about 15, 20 years ago, probably closer to 20 years ago, we had a group we were working with and they said, listen, we're ramping up our campaign to get more leads in, but I've got these leads, they haven't spent any money. And obviously, what's the first thing we think? Oh boy, leads that didn't spend any money, those can't be very good. But they said, but they've taken time to fill out what we call their vivid vision. So they've taken maybe 1, 2, 3, 10 pages to write specifically what they see, how they see themselves down the road. Pretty powerful exercise. And to do this 20 years ago was pretty innovative by this thought leader that we worked with. But he'd taken this group and said, listen, I want you to vividly write down the future self that you see when you are successful, when you're doing something. And these people wrote some amazing things. I absolutely loved reading them. And guess what? It was also during the month of December, which traditionally isn't the best sales month, right? A lot of people want to put it off till the first of the year, but we got these leads out the floor and magic happened. These were some of the highest converting leads we'd ever had on our floor. And they did not spend a dime, but they invested time, right? Invested a lot of time, emotional, mental energy to write their vivid vision. And they became a great lead for us. And we started utilizing that concept with other leads that we worked with. So what are the different types of leads that are out there, right? If you're looking for leads, start with a sales funnel, right? Most online programs out there or a radio program, whatever it might be, there's that initial part of the funnel. So look at it as if a funnel, right? So you've got this big funnel. The goal initially is to have the top of the funnel very wide to capture a wide net of individuals that are coming in. It might be people opting in. It might be people entering their email address. It might be people that are buying a very cheap initial offering product, right? But that gets them in the funnel. Then what happens to a funnel? It goes like this. It starts to get smaller and smaller until the very good stuff is coming out the bottom, right? So with that, when you consider it that way, opt-ins or small end buyers, that's the big part of the funnel. Now, as you go down the funnel, people spend a little bit more money. They become a more highly qualified lead. Now, when they spend a little bit of money, they might spend more money, right? There might be something that says, hey, here's this program, but for additional $20, $50, $100, you can get this included in it. So it becomes what we call a buyer bump lead, right? A buyer plus. So they're spending and then spending some more. Now, in addition to that, what if you got them to buy something and buy something else, but also fill out one of those consultations or those vivid visions? All of a sudden, they become the highest potential quality lead out there, right? Now, I'll talk about some other leads that might be even better than that, but that is one of the highest quality leads out there where you can get somebody to do both, invest time and invest money. In the type of world we live in with coaching sales, There's also the seminar world, where you might get somebody who pays for a seminar, but they attend but don't buy anything, or they attend the seminar, they do buy something, and obviously the more times they buy, the more time they invest in each seminar, the better off they're going to be. And one of the best leads out there is somebody who is organically consuming content, right? Whether they're watching YouTube videos or they spend a lot of time on your channel just consuming videos, those individuals are highly qualified leads as well. So let's talk really quick, what is a conversion rate? So simply put, how many sales divided by how many leads? So let's say you had 2 sales, you had 100 leads, you're at a 2% conversion rate. And once again, people will view this different ways. Some people might say, well, we're going to measure conversion rate based on how many people you spoke to or how many appointments showed up and how many of those you closed. Now that could change things a lot, because if you got 100 leads and you close 2 of them and you have a 2% close rate, but let's say that you measured it differently, where you said, hey, 15 appointments on my calendar that I talked to, 15 appointments that were booked, and out of those 15, I spoke to 10 of them and I closed 1 of them. Conversion rate might be 10%, but that 1 sale, and if they started with 100 leads, that's a 1% conversion rate when you compare apples to apples with somebody that looks at 100 leads with 2 sales, right? So conversion rate, you got to make sure that everything is the same across the board, whether you're measuring off total leads, whether you're measuring off of conversion rate, or whether you're measuring off people that you've spoken to, right? Appointments that you've spoken to. So obviously, as long as everything's same across the board, those measurements can work really well for you and your organization. Now, for our organization, one thing we did that really stood out for us, because conversion rate only told part of the story, we looked at what we call dollar per lead. It encompasses not only the conversion rate, but the dollar amount sold to those individuals, because we have packages that range from $1,000 to $8,000. What we've had to do is look at, listen, if this individual is selling people, what dollar amount are they selling it at? So $1 per lead, well, let's take 2 examples. You got a salesperson. Let's say they had 3 sales. This person had 1 sale. But let's say that this individual's sales were 1,000, 1,000, 1,500, right? So they did 3,500 in sales, but this person with 1 sale did 8,000. Obviously, his dollar per lead is better than the individual who got 3 sales. Now, you might argue and say, listen, man, the person who got 3 sales, though, eventually they're going to get bigger sales, which I agree, 100%. But this person, a big win like that can also lead to more sales, right? And so, especially if you're working with individuals that are providing you leads, getting the most revenue out of the leads is typically what they look for. So we were able to align our salespeople with the dollar per lead, because that metric really felt well for the partners that were providing us leads to our organization. So what does all this mean? So we've talked about what type of leads are out there. We've talked about conversion rate. Ultimately, here's the story. The less quality of leads you have in your organization, it's going to bring morale down. If people are spending lots and lots of time having conversations but not getting anywhere, not seeing success, morale is going to start to go down. And think about it. If that's the case, it's actually going to cost you more money. The opportunity cost of you being on better leads is something that's going to drain your organization, because morale is down and the opportunity to do something else is there, but you're not taking advantage of it. There was a time in our organization, I remember, that we're kind of in that situation. We didn't have really high quality leads. We'd met an individual who said, listen, I've got these events that I do. They're very specific for this niche, for this industry. And these people are pretty excited about what you guys do as far as personal development training and coaching. And we got those leads. It made a world of difference. Instantly sales grew. Instantly morale went up. Instantly everything got better, right? And it was a fantastic account for us for many, many years. But it all started by a high quality lead and finding those. And they're out there. It's just being able to find those for you in your organization. So ultimately, at the end of the day, what is a good conversion rate? Once again, it depends on how you measure those conversion rates. As long as it's apples for apples, obviously a conversion rate, you're going to look and see which one is higher, right? But remember, there's another part to that story, which is also dollar amount to that individual. So if you combine the 2, conversion rate with dollar amount sold, and you combine those 2, you typically see the better conversion rate. And anytime we're working a buyer lead, and if you go to some of my previous videos, I talk a lot about buyer leads or consultation leads. Typically, we want to be north of 150 on a dollar per lead for leads. And some of those best leads out there want to be double, maybe triple that on some things. So those are some things that have worked well in our organization and the people we've worked with. I'd love to hear your feedback. How do you measure leads? What does success look like for you on your leads? Leave a comment below. I'm happy to engage in a dialogue. And as always, I've got a free gift for you, aaronssalestraining.com. Click on the link below. It is 20 modules of the best sales training we've done in our organization. It's on persuasion and influence. Not only will it help you in sales, but also in your professional development. Once again, thanks for stopping by, watching our videos. Have a great day.